power to grow and to heal, and how to laugh at your own humanness and not take life too seriously.
Witness the field of potential that arises when you take personal responsibility and become the divine creator in your own life.
Visit theway-healing.com for more information.
Release your potential now with Jane, your weekly dose of energy, wisdom, and healing. Tune in each Tuesday at 12:30 Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio to explore how energy shapes your life and how you can shift it to thrive in every area, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Whether you're dealing with stress, seeking balance, or curious about the energetic world around you, this is your space for insight, growth, and transformation. For more information, visit janecphillips.com.
Hey there, Lightworker. Have you ever wondered if there's something blocking your full access to your spiritual abilities? After working with many clients like you over the past 10 years, one thing I've seen again and again is that until you've cleared your childhood wounds from your subconscious, your ability to receive intuitive information for yourself and assist others as a healer, guide, or channeler is going to be compromised. That's why I've created a tool to help. A free quiz that reveals the core childhood wound that's still hidden in your subconscious, paired with a powerful hypnosis session that will permanently release it. If you're ready to degunk your energy field and unlock new layers of your clairs so that you can start facilitating profound transformation for your loved ones or clients, head over to therealhealinginstitute.com and click or tap free quiz in the bar menu to get started.
Ready for healing that's raw, real, and actually helpful? Hi, I'm Faye, host of Soul Unfiltered, the podcast that ditches the spiritual woo-woo and dives deep into grief, energy, intuition, healing, and emotional truth. Join me for sacred storytelling, practical healing tools, and soul-level insight. Subscribe now and tune in to Transformation Talk Radio every fourth Wednesday of each month at 11 a.m. Pacific Time, and start your healing journey at fayeinspiredhealing.com.
Boy, does this feel like good times today. It's so great to have all of you tune us in and turn us on. I love it. This is a show that's going to invite all of you to open up your heart because it's about dreams coming true. There's a road we get to take as we craft out and we lay a course that's in service of so many others. Sometimes the universe, God, whatever you believe in, have you ever wondered why, but better than why, or how the universe knows how to line things up in a way that gets you ready?
Welcome to the Becoming You Show, where limits get torched and possibility takes the mic. I'm Leah Rowling, human in permanent beta, neurostrategist, mom to 3 amazing humans, married to 1 legendary soul, and your no fluff permission slip to stop waiting. Every week, we rewire brain patterns, smash hand-me-down mindsets, and dive into the daring, identity-shifting conversations most people dodge. Ready to turn potential into proof? Grab your pen. Your next chapter starts now. Hello, my beautiful friend. How are you? When I ask that question, I just want to linger a little bit there. And my hope is that at least you check in with you, how you are. When I do these podcasts, when I do these conversations, I really do like to think that like you're right here, like standing in front of me. And I really just want to take a beat and a pause to just check in with how you really are and welcome you to the show. And thank you for taking and investing this time for you and the people that you get to lead and love in this world. So thank you for being here. I'm going to talk about a training that I was in recently, which is what prompted me to kind of create an outline or a thought about this show. So I was in this training facilitating a leadership workshop, right, with leaders from all over the Des Moines area, completely different industries. They were all represented by way of appointment, these leaders. So we had leaders from the banking world and the insurance world and the grocery world and the real estate world and the tech world and the engineering world, like completely different worlds. But what was really fascinating, it was the same conversation across all of these leaders. And toward the end of the session, someone raised their hand, right? And I want to be very clear in this conversation that it was not planted, that I did not ask him, nor did I pay him to ask this question. It was not prompted at all, but this was the question. How do we get our entire organization to learn this, right? They learned the master skills of leadership. They learned how to have cognitive discipline in order for the numbers to show up visibly in spreadsheets, right? We talked about emotional intelligence. We talked about all of the things that we have conversations around on the show. And they were like, okay, we're just one leader in a very much larger ecosystem of leaders. So how can we make sure that everyone understands these concepts? And then that spurred up more conversation around how we're burning out our middle management because they're taking on so much. And we're frustrating our senior leadership because we can't keep up with the capacity. And it was very clear that they were executing, right? They were doing what they were told, but that it wasn't creating change. And at the end of it, it was kind of like, okay, how do we get you, Leah, into all of our organizations? And I'm not saying this from a like ego, like they don't want me, right? They don't want me in their organization. What they want is the system, the standard that I teach. That's really what they want. And so I kind of smiled, right? Because I've been asked that question before, and here's the truth of it. That's not scalable. It's not possible for me to be inside every organization, teaching every team, teaching every leader, holding every standard. And even if it were, it wouldn't solve the real problem, right? Because the problem isn't access to training, right? The problem is this, okay? We are trying to change behavior without ever addressing what's driving the behavior. And I say this with a lot of care, right? Because this is not an indictment on the leaders of the world. This is not a failure of leadership. This is the gap that we have been given, right? Most leaders are doing exactly what they were taught to do, right? They're setting expectations, they're creating strategy, they're having accountability conversations, they're following through, and then they walk away thinking, why isn't this working? Why am I having the same conversation over and over and over again? Why does this person know what to do, but still not do it? It's exhausting, right? And it's also not because leaders don't care, because they care deeply. I see this every single day in my coaching across industries, across all sorts of leadership levels, right? I would say 80%, if not more, of the challenges that are brought to me are people challenges, right? People problems, people dynamics, people breakdowns, and eventually people opportunities. And here's what I've come to believe. And I think it's what I titled the show. It's not because people are the problem. And I know there's a lot of you that are going to debate me on this, and that's okay. I'm in for it. Matt, message me, tag me, right? Let's have it, okay? I don't think we have a people problem. I think it's because we're trying to fix the person instead of the operating system, okay? The operating system from which the humans run on. So what do we do? What do we do when we try to fix the person? Okay, and if this lands for you, I want it to land lovingly. I want it to land in opportunity, not in blame, right? what I see is, in order to quote unquote fix the person, as if that was the problem, we double down on strategy, right? We increase accountability check-ins. We add more meetings, we add more oversight, we add more tracking, right? So let's make this real. You have a team member who says all the right things in the meeting, right? They nod, they agree, they commit, and then nothing changes. Anyone? Okay. Or you have a leader, right, who avoids these hard conversations, not because they don't know how, right, to have a conversation, not that they don't know that they actually need to have them, but because they don't know how to regulate themselves inside of them. Okay? Or a high performer. Okay? Incredible when things are calm. Okay? But the moment that pressure hits, the moment the timeline is changed, the moment that there is a kink, right, in the path, they shut down, they react, they spiral. Okay? Any of these three scenarios ring a bell. Okay? Because these are the ones that I meet pretty much on the daily. And what do we do then? What do we do with that high performer? What do we do with that leader in that conversation? What do we do with that team member that nods, right? And then nothing changes. What do we do? Well, we coach the behavior. We address the outcome. We increase accountability. But rarely are we asking what's happening inside this human that is driving this pattern, right? What is happening upstream from outcomes, upstream from behavior that's driving this pattern? And if we don't address it, we're literally just band-aiding the behavior, okay? Here's what's actually happening, okay? A couple of things. Policies, right? Strategies, they assume regulation, right? Training assumes clarity, and culture assumes capacity. Okay, are you with me? But humans, most of us, were never taught how to regulate, how to seek clarity, how to tap into capacity. So the very thing that our strategy, that our accountability practice is counting on, is relying on, is the human that's regulated, that's clear, and that has capacity. There's a mismatch in that assumption, okay? Because humans were never taught it, right? And I want you to really think about it. We send people to school for years, right? We teach them how to read. We teach them how to write. We teach them how to analyze. We teach them how to execute. But we never teach them, right, how to sit in discomfort, how to have a cognitive discipline, right? How to think on purpose. We're never taught emotions, how to regulate emotions when it matters the most. Yes, we can all be accommodating and pleasing and kind when things are good. But when things aren't, what do humans do? Right? We either avoid or react. If we're not taught how to meet that moment regulated, we will lack innovation. We will lack our ability to problem solve, right? We won't be able to stay in choice under pressure. We weren't taught how to lead ourselves. We didn't even know that was the thing. Leadership was always about social influence. But without our ability to be self-led, the expression of ourselves lands flat. And without that ability, many people, many middle managers, I'll just call them all team members, we place them in high stakes environments and we expect them to perform. It's not a people problem. It's a preparation one. We've not prepared our people for the pace and the capacity that we are asking them to step into, right? The world is not slowing down. It's going faster. In the world of AI, much faster. So that speed is only going to continue to increase. If we don't prepare our team members with those tools, with that self-governing toolkit, we're going to continue to find ourselves in frustration and annoyance and exhaustion. I think a lot of burnout comes here because we keep trying to fix the problem the same way that we've always fixed it, by just throwing a Band-Aid on the behavior. Okay? And that's the mistake. That is the mistake, right? We keep solving downstream problems, right? Missed expectations, poor communication, lack of accountability, low performance. And we completely ignore what's upstream from that. I want you to think about last time you had an accountability conversation with a team member, right? Either that employee that nods and nothing changes, right? Or that leader, right? Who's like, I really know I have to have the conversation. I don't know how to have it. I don't want to have it. Right? Or that high performer that as long as everything is, steady, they're steady. But the minute it isn't, they're not. When you have that conversation, I'm guessing it's about a missed expectation. I'm guessing it's about poor communication. I'm guessing it's about the behavior. It's either about the behavior or the results, or therefore lack of results because of that behavior. That's all downstream coaching. That's all downstream leadership. If we are going to effectively lead people, we have to invoke the leader within them, which means that rather than talking and double downing on behavior or something that happened, right? That there's no potential in what happened, but we like to double down on that. Instead, we get to talk about upstream, where all behavior is derived by way of how people think, how people feel, how they regulate, how they access their own solution, how they're able to create decisions and make decisions, okay? How they show up. We're not probably having those conversations upstream. And if 80%, I want you to keep this in mind, if 80% of leadership challenges are people challenges, or so we say, then we have to ask, why are we still trying to solve people problems with process solutions? Right? And I want to soften this because I know some of you are thinking, but we need accountability, Leah. We need these expectations for sure. Both things can be true, friends. But accountability only works when the person has the internal capacity to follow through. And if they don't, no amount of check-ins will create that capacity. No amount of write-ups will create that capacity. No amount of, these type of behavioral conversations will create that capacity. Guess what it creates? Pressure. Pressure. And pressure is not motivating. Pressure is crippling, especially if you're not taught, right, how to self-regulate under pressure, how to tap into clarity when clarity is required in order to effectively fulfill the obligation of the role. And capacity is absolutely important because without it, you can't ask for more. You can barely ask for what it is that you're asking. And if they're not doing it, it's most likely a capacity problem. It's either a capacity problem, a clarity problem, or a regulation problem. Okay, so if you're a leader and you're listening to this, okay, and you feel like a lot of my other leaders that I have these conversations with on the daily, right? If you feel like you're repeating yourself, right? You continue to ask the same thing over and over and over again, and they don't do it, and you want to make it mean that it's a disrespect issue or an incompetence issue or a lazy issue or whatever issue what you want to throw at it, and you feel stuck, right? Because of this labor market or because the economy or what have you, this is hope. This is hope. If you feel like you're carrying too much and if it's not you, then who? So you end up under delegating and over shouldering. Okay. If you feel like you're continually managing energy, the energy of the culture, the energy of the room, the energy of the integrity, right? Instead of actually leading people, I want you to hear me say this with so much heart. You're not doing it wrong, right? You've just been given an incomplete system of which to operate from, right? And once I saw that we don't have a production problem. We don't have a profitability problem. We really don't have a people problem. We have a clarity problem. We have a capacity problem. Okay? We have SOPs, like standard operating procedures for how the work is done. But very rarely do we have an SOP, like an internal operating system for the person that is required to get the work done. That is why we've been building OS. So I'm going to introduce OS here in this conversation because I think it's really important. It's important in the work that I do across all industries, okay? I don't believe the answer is more training. I don't believe the answer is more coaching. I don't believe the answer is more inspiration or more motivation. I think the answer is infrastructure. So what I shared with this team member at the very beginning of the conversation, right? They asked, how do we get you into all of our organizations? And I'm like, you don't have to. You don't have to, because OS is that, right? OS is that plug and play operating system, okay? Not for the work, right? But for the human doing the work. As I mentioned, you already have the SOPs for how work gets done. OS is the SOP for how humans show up in the work, right? And here's what makes it different, okay? There's no belief required. There's no culture that anyone is asking you to buy into. There's no long training process. It teaches the mechanics of self-leadership so people can regulate, right? They can access choice under pressure. They can act with clarity, right? They can increase the capacity that has been available to them. They just didn't see it. So I want you to imagine this, my beautiful leaders of the world. Imagine this. Instead of guessing how people respond under pressure, how people make decisions or not under pressure, how people bring forward solutions under pressure or not, all of the things that drive you crazy about what it is that they're not doing. What if the gap was an installation of a system, right? That helps people with these self-leadership principles, tools, and disciplines to teach them how to respond. Instead of chasing behavior and just band-aiding it, or doubling down on outcomes and results, right? You just standardize how people operate. And in that, instead of burning out leaders, you've distributed ownership across the teams, right? OS in its simplest form, 7 modules, 7 to 12 minutes each, fixed sequence, same system everywhere. Plug and play, per seat, self-paced. No disruption, no complexity. This is how this self-leadership, the operating standard of self-leadership gets into every seat in every organization, installed in every human, right? That's the future that I dream about, right? We are entering a world where the differentiator is not strategy. It's not intelligence. It's not even experience. It's the ability to operate under pressure. Like I said, the world is speeding up. It's going so fast, so quick. AI is the precipice of that. If we don't elevate the standard, if we don't hold space for the capacity, if we don't drop in an operating system to help support at the pace that we have to run, that we get to run, we're going to fall behind. We're going to fall behind. And the organizations that will win are not going to be the ones with the best plans. They're going to be the ones with the most regulated and most self-led humans. I say this a lot. I don't think, yes, will AI take jobs for sure? But what I actually believe is if you don't know how to use AI, if you don't utilize AI as part of the capacity of you, those are the jobs that it will take. This is what we get to do. We get to bring this home, okay? Because systems stabilize the behavior and the results of your organization, the ones that you've probably spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on, right? They don't stabilize because you have another plan. They don't stabilize because you have another accountability measure. They stabilize when the humans do. And until we address that, we will continue solving the wrong problems over and over and over and over again. So if you're leading an organization and if you're hearing this, okay, if your teams are they're executing, right? They're checking off boxes and they're following the tasks, but they're not evolving. They're not hitting the benchmarks. They're not creating the results that are required in order to effort the promise of the mission, right? If accountability isn't sticking, if performance isn't holding up, I would invite you to look upstream, right? I believe that everyone is a leader. I believe that if you woke up with breath this morning, you're a leader. You're a leader of something. And I believe that when we can drop the standard into every human being, we will have more self-led humans that are A+ performers that can handle the pressure of what the world is going to meet us with. And I will end by saying, I will continue to not believe that the problem is the people. If our problem is the people, we're screwed, right? People are either our greatest asset or our greatest liability. And I believe that the only reason why they are our liability is because we've been spending an enormous amount of effort band-aiding the behavior when the answers and the solution were always upstream of the behavior. It's not your people. It's the system that they were never taught how to run. So I am passionate about OS, as you can probably tell. If you want to learn more about it, you can find information about it in the show notes. Snag some time on a discovery call to see if OS could be a viable solution for whatever it is that you're working on in your industry. I really envision a world where humans step back into their own personal power and they're able to self-lead themselves in a way that we can become more innovative and more creative, and our ability to be able to do so and be able to use AI as a tool to do so instead of having AI run us. That's my dream. That's the future of the world that I envision, and I'd love to have you join us in it as well. So have a beautiful one. I'm excited about next month's conversations they're going to be about worthiness. And it's going to be different than I've ever taught it. So looking forward to seeing you in the next conversations. Have a beautiful one, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye. If this episode cracked something open, good. Let it. And then head to leahrollingcoaching.com and grab the tools to rewire the story and reclaim your future. It is yours. And then share this with someone who's still waiting to be chosen, still waiting for permission, and remind them they don't need a breakthrough, that they are the breakthrough. Until next time, my beautiful friends, invest in you and keep becoming.